Hey Misfits, welcome to Weight Loss Wednesdays. So today we're going to be talking about my actual trip to Mexico and surgery day itself. So my surgery was October 12th, and I had left to go to Mexico October 11th, and I didn't come back until October 16th. So the whole experience was definitely worth the outcome. I had left here early in the morning. I want to say we left at maybe 3 a.m. to get to the airport because I had like a 7:30 flight. Can't remember the exact time. And I wanted to get there early because my fear is getting like stuck in customs or something. So we got there super early. It only took me like 20 minutes to get through customs. So I was there doing nothing for basically an extra 2 hours. But once we were there, I said goodbye and I was like, all right, see you in a week, basically. And waited for the airplane. Everybody was seated and boarded. Everything was fine. We were probably on the runway for about 5 minutes. And, personally, I didn't think anything of it, except when I did look out the window, because I always get window seats. I was like, why is this taking so long? Well, it turns out once we got on the runway, once we were ready for everything, they had technical difficulties up front connecting to the computer, I guess. I guess it tells you like the grid and everything. So we had to deboard. And technicians had to go out to look at the computer, look at the motherboard, whatever it is that you do with planes. And it took an extra hour for them to do that. Everything was fine. Everything was fixed. But by the time I made it to my layover, I missed my flight. So my next flight wasn't until 6 o'clock that night. So a normal 1 hour layover turned into a 5-hour layover. And I was dying. So for me personally, I wasn't really mad about it because I know stuff happens. But I wasn't that mad. I was just like, okay, the only thing I'm mad about is I can't eat. I'm hungry, basically. Because when you're in an airport, they don't have anything that's approved. So because this was the day before my surgery, the only thing I was allowed to have was clear liquids. Like water, and chicken broth, basically. And I was struggling. So, of course, I had went and bought water bottles. And I just spent the next 5 hours just walking around the airport. Just going from terminal to terminal. Looking at all the shops. Distracting myself like, hey, what can I do? What can I see? And I did take a little time at my actual gate. And I decided to just stay there and read and go on social media. Because what else do you do after you went around the airport 4 times? So at least I got my walking in. So that was fun. I did call ahead and let my transportation know, hey, my flight was delayed. This is the time I'm tracking to actually be there. I hope that's not too late. Is that still okay? And they were like, yeah, that's fine. We're here. It's okay. It's cool. All right, thanks. Finally board on my plane. The first plane was interesting. The person I was sitting next to was actually kind of cute. But he was pissed off that we had to deboard. So getting back onto the plane, you know how like when you sit next to people, especially during COVID, like space, you kind of like try to keep to yourself, right? You like squish up to like keep to yourself. No, This little boy, he wasn't a little boy, he was probably older than me, was all on me. And I'm just like, sir, get off of me. But like, he constantly pressed up against my arm. And I'm like, sir, you have all that space. Go over there. So that was the experience sitting next to somebody on the first plane. Sitting next to somebody on the second plane was awesome. First of all, this was the first time I've been on a plane that had TVs. They had TVs in the seats. What? And like I was in regular seating. Like I wasn't in first class or anything. But again, I sat next to the window, and then there was a person on the aisle seat, and then nobody in the middle. So I was so happy. But I had space, I had room. I was like, all right, cool. I'm watching movies. I think I watched like 2.5 movies. I watched The Nightmare Before Christmas. There was another movie where I don't remember the name of, and I feel really bad. But basically, it had Johnny Depp in it, and like a whole bunch of other really good actors, and they're on a train. But then somebody died on the train, and the investigator had to go and figure out who killed this person. And then the third one I watched was Project Power. But so by the time I finished watching all those movies, they were like, all right, we're landing, blah, blah, blah. Cool. Land in San Diego. So I just grabbed my bag, went straight to the little pickup area. And I did have to call transport, and I was like, hey, I'm at so-and-so space. Here I am. And the gentleman picked me up, and because it was so late, I was the only one that they were picking up at the time. So we're driving to go into Mexico, and my driver was so funny. I think it was more of a fact of him trying to make sure that I felt comfortable, because he kept trying to make jokes and like keep me talking and whatnot. I'm not a talkative person when I'm around people I don't know. I just stay to myself, and I'm just like, okay, why are we talking? But it was really interesting. Like, he kept making jokes of everything, talking about how wonderful the place is, how beautiful it is, which it was very beautiful. And then my favorite part with driving into Mexico was right before we got into Mexico, we went across the border, like the first little part before the actual border section. I don't know how to describe it. But you just see the gate. And I swear to you, he goes, and there's the wall. It was literally a gate. But he had made a joke about, like Trump trying to keep everybody out, and there's a giant wall, and I'm just like, it's a little gate. And I thought it was so funny, and I'm just like, yes. So I thought that part was really funny. Going into Mexico was really quick. We went in, pulled off to the side, they checked the car, everything. They said, all right, good to go. Drove me all the way to the hotel room, since it was the night before my surgery. Yeah, and once we arrived at the hotel, he was able to help me get checked in, let the doctors know what room I was staying at. Everybody was in constant communication with each other, which I think is amazing. But I went up to the room, and I immediately passed out. And I was just like, I'm done. Before I went to bed that night, I did get an email saying, hey, we're going to pick you up at this time. Make sure you don't leave anything at the hotel, because you're going to have a different room when you come back, and so on and so on. So I said, okay, great. So immediately fall asleep, wake up early the next morning, get ready to go. I was so excited. I went down to the lobby, and I was waiting to get picked up, and then another lady came down, and some more people came down and was waiting in the lobby, and I'm like, are all these people about to go get surgery? Is that what we all doing? Is this what we're doing? So we get into the transport, and the lady's talking to me, and she was like, "Are you also getting the VSG?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am. I'm really excited for it. What about you?" And she was so nervous. I think her mom accompanied her, but we weren't allowed to have any visitors or companions at the hospital just because of COVID. But they were allowed to stay at the hotel. They just had to pay for the extra days in the room. I didn't bring anybody because that's just me. I was like, I was going to bring my roommate, but somebody needed to stay and watch our pupper and cats. So I was like, next time we can go to Mexico together when I can drop him off at his dad's house. But this time, I didn't have anyone else to watch him outside of her. So I was like, sorry, you can't come with me. But we get to the hospital and immediately get checked in. The lady, the receptionist, was absolutely adorable. So we get our paperwork signed in, and I get called up just to get my wristband, everything else. And she's like, okay, I do have to see your ID. So I say, okay. Give her my ID, and then she does whatever she does. She gives it back to me. She was like, your ID is wrong. And I was like, what? No, it's not. But that's my ID. It's not wrong. Do Americans do it differently? And then she goes, it's in black and white. And I was like, is your picture not supposed to be black and white? I've always had a black and white picture. And she just goes, but then how can we see the color of your eyes? And I thought that was really cute. Like, it was so adorable, and we laughed for like a good 2 minutes. And I had to go get my chest x-rayed, and I had to go get my blood drawn, do a COVID test at the hospital as well, just to make sure I didn't contract anything within that 2-week time period of my original COVID test. They make you do the blood work first. So the lady went in immediately, got the blood, and everything was fine. The lady was able to find my vein perfectly fine. That part is important. And then I go and get my chest x-rayed. But once that was done, I went back into the waiting room to wait for the other girl to be done. And we got taken upstairs into the actual hospital portion where our rooms were. And that is where things took a little slight turn. I got shown my room. They gave me my gown, everything that I had to put on, told me I had to take everything off. So I was like, all right, cool. Super nervous, super excited. The funny thing was trying to get my IV. So the first time they put my IV in was right here. That is where I went to go get my surgery done. With my IV, okay. So they come in, stick me with my IV. All of the doctors come in and talk to me. Everybody who had any parts in dealing with my surgery or my billing, my nutritionist, everybody came in and talked to me for like a split second before surgery. My anesthesiologist, I think that's how you say it, came in and talked to me, and he was making sure I understood everything. My nutritionist came in, making sure I understood everything. Nurses came in. My actual doctor or surgeon came in, and everybody came in to discuss everything with me, which I was so thankful for, because I was a little nervous, but I wasn't like, oh my god, I'm about to have surgery nervous. I was just a little nervous. They told me that I was the first one to go get surgery, so I was like, yay, cool. Totally not scared. But went down, got my surgery done, came out of surgery, and I had the worst reaction to the anesthesia. So I have CPTSD, which just means complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And I've had surgery beforehand with my tonsils being taken out, but I got diagnosed after it. And I never thought that anesthesia would affect it. So when I woke up, I felt like I was being pinned down because you can't move immediately after you wake back up. So I basically had like a little panic episode and freaked out. But a doctor came over, helped me, talked me through everything. They offered me pain medicine, and which surprisingly that calmed me down. And I was able to start feeling stuff again. They took me back upstairs, which I don't remember, which is funny. But I remember entering my room. Like, I remember panicking and then entering my room. That was it. And once I was in my room, because of my panic attack, I did have to throw up. But because there's nothing in your stomach, you don't actually throw up. So I was just dry heaving for like a good 3 minutes. So that was fun. The funny thing about my veins, which is why I said pay attention earlier. So right here, I lied. It wasn't right here. I lied. I'm so sorry. It was right here. Like, sorry. Right here. They did it right here because none of my veins would work at first. So they had to do it in this little portion. Well, my arm started to get like a little puffy. So I'm sitting there and I'm poking my arm. And I was about to bring it up to the nurses because I'm like, I don't think it's supposed to do this. It's not. So a nurse comes in and she's going over everything, checking my vitals, whatnot. And she goes and looks at my IV and she goes, pokes it around, leaves, go gets another nurse, comes back. He does the same thing. And then they talk for a little bit. And they're like, okay, we're going to have to change your IV. Okay. Am I okay? I was fine. But we tried to put it here. Didn't work. We tried to put it here. Didn't work. We tried to put it here. Did not work. So they stuck me over here and then they weren't finding veins. So one lady was like, okay, you know what? We're going to give you a break. Thanks. After being stuck 5 times, now I get a break. But I understand. All right, my veins weren't cooperating. They were hiding. I get that. I was stressed. I hate being stuck with needles. So it's like I tense up so my veins disappear. I understand. So the lady was like, okay, go take a shower. Go wash up. We'll give you a break. I'm like, okay, cool. I had like a little mental breakdown in that shower. I had to hold the little drain plug, wash everything with one hand, had to get rid of all that hospital gunk that they put on you for surgery. And then I come out and I'm just like, okay, put on a new gown. But after about 30 minutes of being out of the shower, another nurse comes in and she goes, hello. And I'm like, hi. And she's like, okay, last time. They turn off all the lights. And she has this little machine that she puts on me. And it's like a little red light. And she goes across my arm with it. And she finds a vein right here. And she's like, okay, last time, I promise. And sticks me. That was the last time. But I bruised so bad. The first night was very hectic. Every 2 to 3 hours, I was spitting up. My body was getting used to just having surgery, and just because it's your stomach, I'm saying, I guess, because of like the acid and then the contraction of your stomach, it just forces it back up. So the first night was very rough for me. But after the first night, everything was fine. I was able to start drinking Gatorade, tea, ice chips. Ice chips were my best friend. I was able to get up and start walking. I did request a second gown because I didn't want to just walk with an open gown. Like, I didn't want to walk with an open gown. So I put my regular gown on and then I put the other gown on like a jacket. And I just felt more comfortable that way. And then the day I got discharged was interesting. Everybody came in, talked to me one last time. They were constantly checking on me throughout my last few days there. But the last day, everyone checked on me one more time. Was like, all right, great. When the gentleman came in to take out my drain tube, that was my worst experience throughout the entire experience. So, he removes all the packaging, the tape, everything, and then he puts pressure on it and then holds the tube and he goes, okay, you're going to breathe in, you're going to breathe out, you're going to breathe in, and then you're going to breathe out. And then he pulled the tube out. And then it felt like worms were crawling in me. And that is my biggest fear, is having bugs inside of me. And it felt so uncomfortable. Granted, it only felt uncomfortable for about 2 minutes, but it was so uncomfortable. But that was okay. And then I got my staples taken out for my incisions. And then I got sent back to the hotel. I felt so weird. Like, I felt wired, but drained at the same time. So they sent me home with antibiotics, basically Miralax, and some extra gauze and cleaning materials for my wounds. I just spent my last day and a half at the hotel, and they were able to give me water bottles, popsicles, and chicken broth. So their chicken broth was really good. Like, really good. Like, I would have that on a normal day. My chicken broth is gross. I want to know what they had because that was really yummy. My ride back into America was okay. It only took us like an hour to get across the border. But we pull up to the border. The guy comes in, checks the car, checks everybody's passport, was like, okay, cool, y'all are good to go. And we made it into America. I did have a different driver this time, but he did almost the same thing. So as we're leaving, he points to one section of like a whole bunch of abandoned cars, and he goes, oh, you see this graveyard? That's where the drugs were. I was like, what? So then we get dropped off back at the airport. I did have to request a wheelchair, so I called ahead of time, and I was like, I'm going to need wheelchair assistance from gate to gate. And I'm so thankful I did that. I'm so thankful that I was told I could do that, because walking immediately, if I would have had to walk that San Diego airport to my gate, which was, here's the entrance, my gate's all the way over there, I was tired. I was exhausted. I was hurt. But I did have to check in my bag because one of the medicines that they gave me was a liquid container, and it was outside of that. I think it's like 3 ounces. So I had to check my bag because of one bottle. But that was okay. But I got wheelchair assistance, taken through customs. This airport, they had the little puppy for the drug dog. And I had to take everything in me not to pet the dog. I was like, the pupper is working. I cannot bother a working pupper. But he was so cute. And I was like, okay, I acknowledge the pupper. I can keep it going. But go through customs and everything, get taken to my gate. And the first flight was awesome. It also had movies. I did have to sit next to a whole bunch of people. I was actually on the aisle seat this time because this flight was booked and they had to do like rearranging of the seat schedules, which whatever is what it is. But yeah, that one was cool. It was a very quick-ish flight. The flight back home. Granted, it was a short flight. It was only like 2 hours. But I sat next to a couple. It was a husband and wife. The husband sat in the middle, and the wife was at the window. She was like a goofy Karen. Like, wasn't a strict Karen. Like a goofy Karen. Like, still wanted to complain about everything, but was goofy and lighthearted and didn't fully mean it. She's just constantly complaining. And then at one point, she was like, this poor girl is going to have to sit next to us and hear everything bicker and blah, 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 blah. And the husband just goes, everything's fine. We can do this. This is going to be fine once we get to the house. And like trying to like assure her that everything's fine. So it was a very interesting flight home. But I did text Becca because she was picking me up, and I was like, can you please bring me Jell-O? So on the way here, she did stop by the store, picked up some Jell-O, and picked me up from the airport. So got back in the car with her, took a bite of that Jell-O, and it was disgusting because my taste buds have changed. But I was like, all right, well, I'm home now. So we drove home, got home. I had her take Ruger outside for a walk to go to the bathroom. Oh, look at him. I said his name and he like appeared. Hi, baby. I had her take him outside. I can't get over that. I'm sorry. I had her take him outside and so I could sneak into the house. And I hid in my shower. So when they came back inside, all you heard was him running up our steps and just stop. And then all you hear is just like of him like just shuffling around places. And then he goes into my room and then into my bathroom and you just hear him scrambling around, just smelling everything. I had to take one of my pillows and stuff it up under my shirt in case he jumped on me. I didn't want him to like hurt my incisions or anything. So I'm hiding in my shower thinking it's gonna lessen the effect of him seeing me after a week. I was wrong. He tried to jump in the shower with me and then love on me. So it was really interesting. But after that, he calmed down. Everything was fine. Unfortunately for him, he wasn't allowed to like sleep on my bed because he keeps trying to cuddle and everything. And I'm just like, you can't touch me. I'm sorry. But that was my experience. That was actual surgery day, going to the hospital and then flying home. From the moment we got to the airport to the moment I had my surgery were those few complications, those few setbacks, but it was definitely worth the outcome and where I'm at now. I would totally do it all over again and do it the same exact way. That was my experience. That was my surgery day experience. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week. Be welcomed and get creative. Bye.